Fresh takes. Welcome to Don't Evolve Me, the place like Ash catching Pikachu. We don't evolve, we just level up. Brandon, hello.
Hello.
We're doing fresh takes. Fresh takes. Get your fresh takes here on Don't Evolve Me, and this is a fun episode I'm excited about.
Oh yes, yeah, I'm excited.
We're doing Invincible Season 2, Episode 4. I actually have the title this time.
Oh, you have the title.
It's been a while.
Yes.
That's
a
title.
Fitting line. That is a fitting title.
It very much is. So, all right. I know we already talked a little bit like what you expected or what you were expecting for this episode at the end of episode 3.
Yep.
Did it deliver?
Yes and no. I was like completely right about a couple things and then also completely wrong about one part of it. Otherwise, I feel like I was pretty close.
Pretty close. I was like, This is everything I expected it.
Yeah. Well, you have an inside scoop.
I've only read the comic and it's following pretty close to the comics.
Yeah. As far as I was wrong about really just like one thing, I feel like. Otherwise, I was pretty much right about everything else.
Yeah, you're pretty close.
As far as how Omni-man and stuff would go down and everything.
Mm-hmm. I think there's like one major when the Viltrumites attack.
Yeah, I thought they were going to go to Earth, but they came to.
You thought wrong.
Yep, that was incorrect.
The whole
I didn't
time,
expect to get the big fight so soon like that, but that was.
I was trying so hard not to like say anything in that moment. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good plausible thing. Yeah.
I still say it still would have worked. Still fit. They're looking for Nolan, whatever. They come to Earth. Turns out nobody's there, and they're just like, all right, fuck this, and take it out.
All right, let's get into it.
Yep.
So I'm gonna kind of do this how I did episode 3 a little bit, breaking down the story and then asking questions in between, and then we're just gonna get into the Nolan stuff right away, and then we'll go into everything else.
It's definitely the bulk of the episode.
It is majority of it, and I kind of wish they would have just stayed on Thrax a little bit, but it's kind of understandable why they put all the other storylines, because like there's so many other characters that are moving that the storyline is moving through.
Yep. Just forget about them entirely. They need some sort of advancement leading to the mid-season finale as well. I
feel like if this like the episode count per season was just like a little bit longer, I feel like then this episode would have been its own thing. But since it's a shorter, more of a brisk go through of the Invincible story, I think this makes sense.
Even if the whole season was coming out all at once, I feel like then there might have been a chance that there would have been able to put a few of these things into the next episode and then focus more on this. But I get why they did what they did to really build the finale part of it as far as the mid-season goes.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, the whole split between part 1 and part 2. And I kind of want to talk about that a little bit because we got some news after this episode dropped. We don't have a release date yet for episode 5, but they said it's going to be a few months. They're going to give us a few months break. And as of now, it's November 26th.
I mean, you were speculating January before, so that tracks.
Yep. And it sounds like if it's a few months, if we're going by few, doing 3 is like the minimum amount of few. I think 3 to 5 months is like few.
Yeah.
So December, January, February, the show should be back in March. I think April is probably the most realistic.
Yeah.
Which is a long time to wait. We'll be in the middle of Avatar then.
Yep. Yeah. Feels like I'm trying to be away, but
apparently there was some production issues, and they didn't want us to wait any longer for season 2. So they're like, we have the first 4 episodes done. We'll release them and then as we were releasing them, we'll work on part 2 and make sure that's good to go, so that you're not waiting. But then you have a little bit of breather for this episode, which makes sense.
Yeah, I think it'll work out. I'm definitely as long as it's the next part.
As long as it's not like a long wait.
Yeah, as long as we don't have multiple years in between.
Yeah, that'd be frustrating. All right, so let's
Yeah.
get into it. We get a little bit of flashback right away. Nolan is flying aimlessly through space after abandoning his post on Earth. We get a little bit of that, a little bit of flashback of him crying at Mark and then flying
Mm.
off, and then we get a really cool like music intro, and I forget the song that they were playing,
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I'm not good with music, but yeah.
but I was like, really like, damn, this is kind of gorgeous, kind of beautiful. And they did this a few times through the episode with characters
Mm.
just kind of like flying or walking through, and then like you just there's like a song in the background. And I say the art was pretty gorgeous. So he's aimlessly flying through space. He's looking at a black hole, probably contemplating suicide, or that's kind of the idea. I think that's what they were alluding to. While
Hinting at,
he's
yeah.
and they do this with another character too. There's them staring essentially death in the face. And as he's doing this, he notices a Thraxian ship being pulled into the black hole, and he saves it.
Mm.
And what's your thoughts on Nolan's like story?
Uh, I feel like I was hoping for some redemption.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you redeem yourself after doing something like that. I guess that's a good question. You can talk about that a
Yeah.
little later.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Just now, just like.
yeah, I mean, you can definitely tell that he's going through it, and
Mhm.
maybe he's trying to atone, I guess, and then
Yeah.
just sees that easy opportunity, like I can save this ship, no problem.
Why
So
do
I
you
might
think
as
he
well do
saved the
that.
ship?
I think it was really guilt,
Guilt?
wanting to be the person that he was pretending to be. Maybe it,
Mhm.
it it meant more to him than he thought it did.
The impression that I was getting, and I'm saying this just in the context of the show, not like what I know
Mhm.
later on. I guess in some way, I am also referring to his story. I think like he didn't. I don't think he was thinking in this moment. I think he was just like feeling it. He's looking at the black hole. He's lost essentially, and
Mm.
he's in a weird way, his old self is dying and flying through that black hole. And he saw somebody who needed help. He saw a ship. He didn't even know who it was. And he's just
Mm.
like, I think he just instinctually, I don't think he thought about it. I think he just instinctually saved it because that's what he's been doing for 20 years.
Mhm.
And in a weird way, his old life is him. Like he became that person.
It changed him more than he thought it did.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I could see that. I mean, especially, I think the aspect of like the trivialness of it to him
Mm-hmm.
also comes into play. Like the fact that uh, saving that ship is like, grabbing a balloon to like one of us and just like handing it to a child. Like
Yeah.
it is like you said, almost reflexual to the point where like maybe understanding how much good he can do so easily, kind of thing,
Mm.
without even trying, basically.
So now we move to the present. And we get this like really intense scene of Mark and Omni-Man, or Mark and Nolan, father and son. And we get just like this close up, zoom up, and we notice like the first thing I notice is like the tightening of the fist. And I think that was
Mm.
pretty apparent that they're trying to do this here. And you
Mm.
see Omni-Man, Nolan, he's doing the same. And you see Mark trying to just understand what the fuck's going on.
Yep, absolutely.
And he's like about to hit him. He wants to hit him, and then there's a hug.
Mm.
What was your reaction to the scene?
I mean, it felt real, I guess.
Yeah.
It's his dad. It's tough. It's a unimaginable situation for somebody to be in.
Mm-hmm.
It's that no matter how bad your parents are and stuff like that, they're still your parents and they still raised you, and you still have those conflicting emotions and stuff.
Yeah.
Showing that he does still, obviously, hasn't just completely turned leaf and hate him entirely.
Well, yeah. I feel like it's
Even though he does, but
it's like an
it's
identity
complicated.
crisis
Yeah, it's
almost.
complicated.
Like I don't know who you are. Like I knew you as dad. I knew you as this person you loved, but then you betrayed me. But now you're
Mhm.
here not doing that thing. It's like, I wanted, like, the hug is like what Mark really wants.
Mm.
He wants to redeem, like, he wants his dad to be redeemed. He wants his
Yeah, I
dad
mean, even
back.
a few minutes later, when they're talking, and he finds out the other news, he basically tells him,
Mhm.
like, I can never come back to Earth. Like, that's not an
Yeah.
option anymore. And you can see that hadn't maybe fully sunk in to Mark yet, that there is no, it really is no going back, no matter what
Yeah.
happens.
Like, how does one go back after
Mm,
millions of people lost?
mm.
You,
The whole world knows about it. I
mhm.
mean, like, you are public enemy number one, and yeah,
He called his wife a pet.
yep,
So, and then Nolan shows kind of like what's happening. He's now Emperor Nolan. He has a new wife and a dresser. And if you're very observant and you have like the memory, like I noticed this the second time, but I didn't notice it the first time. Andressa, his new wife, was on the ship that he saved.
I think I picked up on that.
Yeah, she did mention that she was on the ship. But the second time I
Yeah,
watched it, I was like, "Oh, there she is."
yeah. I mean, to be fair,
Uh,
they all do look like alien bugs to us. A little hard to tell them.
Sexy alien bugs.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the kiss was
Uh,
pretty sexy.
yeah. And then I just wrote in my notes, Revelations.
Hmm.
Nolan's back. He's a new ruler. He has a new wife in Andressa. And surprise, surprise of the episode, he has a child. Mark has a brother.
A half Thraxian brother.
And like when he showed him, he was like, "What the?" And then Invincible, the tagline on
Yeah,
there.
yeah. And then it came back, and he still drops the F bombs. I appreciated that.
What
Yeah, yeah,
the?
yeah, yeah.
What? So what's really cool about the title sequence? Do you remember the title sequence?
From this episode,
Yeah. Do you remember like what it looked like?
not. I remember it was different, but I don't remember specifically what was
So
different about it.
usually it's just like it's the blue background with black and yellow Invincible tag. Like it's
Hmm.
Invincible colors. But this time it wasn't Invincible colors. It was black and red.
Was that Omni-man colors? I guess he's not really black and red.
I will not say any more, but like at first the first time I watched it, I was like, "Oh, that's different." And like I didn't think about it too much, but the second time when I watched it and it like happened again, I was like, "Oh shit, I know what they did. That's an Easter egg."
Okay.
For comic fans, you know what it means. For the people who read the story, you know exactly what it means. Black and red. Just think on it. For those who haven't read the comics, which is most, I feel like most viewers are that way.
Hmm.
It's just an Easter egg to kind of what's to come, and that's all. I'm just gonna leave it there.
Foreshadowing.
No, I wouldn't even say foreshadowing. I mean, kind of. I'm sure like somebody would make the guess. It's not a hard guess to make, but I would just say it's an Easter egg. It's an Easter egg to what's to come. It's the introduction to his Mark's brother, and that's it. Like it's exciting. But
Okay.
this is like an Easter. This is an Easter egg for like maybe season 4, maybe season
Is
3.
does he become like a hero too, and he wears black and red?
I won't say, but I did say you could guess it.
Yeah, that was my guess.
Yeah, see, I was afraid if I said too much, it'd be obvious. But
All
it's a
right.
cool Easter egg. That's all I'm gonna
Yeah.
say. All right. So, what's your thoughts on Nolan's reveal, the revelations?
And interesting. It's just like he's trying to start over again.
Kind
Like, he
of.
regrets what he did, and he was trying to make it right by doing it right this time, even though he can't really fix what he broke there. But
Mm.
you know, it's definitely a redemption attempt.
It's what he knows,
Hmm.
right? Like what he knows is his life on Earth. What he knows is like the mission, which is infiltrate the planet. You know, become its ruler or work in disguise. Omni-man became essentially Superman.
Hmm.
And the whole idea was just to fit in and prep the planet for takeover. And he kind of does it here, but he doesn't prep it for takeover necessarily. He just takes over.
Yeah.
Or he says he was asked to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which
I don't see exactly how it goes down, but
I don't know if they're going to get into the. I kind of want to like state like the comic reasons for it because I don't know if the show will go deep into it. Because in the comics, it was like a couple issues in the comics, and they kind of explain why Omni-Man took over. And
I mean,
here it's he explains it, but not really.
I could see why they would like the Thraxians would put him in power. Like, I mean, he saved those people, and then
Yep.
he's this crazy powerful god,
Mm-hmm.
basically, who lives for eternity according to their lifespans, and can like continually rule them while generation after generation comes and goes,
Mm-hmm.
and like consistently maintain their empire. So I could see like that
Yeah,
justification from that point.
that's actually basically it. And I
Yeah.
will say the comic kind of goes into this detail of like when Omni-Man gets there, they're not that advanced. Like they are
Mm.
advanced, but they're not that advanced because they live so shortly that it's hard to like.
Make meaningful progress. Like you're smart,
Yeah.
you get a genius that's working on like advancing things that comes
Mm-hmm.
up, and then they die, and then you have to wait for the next genius to be born to take up the
Yeah.
mantle.
And I could be wrong here too. It might be switching storyline or blending into characters, but from what I remember, which I really need to just rewatch. I think that's going to be my goal before Invincible comes back is to reread it. So I'm like
Really refreshed.
really refreshed on it. But I think the idea was that Nolan is just like the continuing force to build, and he did
Mm.
that a few times. Like he was there a little bit longer than the show, whereas in the show he was there for a few months, like a generation.
Yeah.
So, and I hope I'm not spoiling anything. I don't think they're. I don't
I
think
don't
they're
know
going
if
to
they'll
touch
even
on it
go into it.
more.
I feel like it might have just been kind of implied. I guess we'll see if they touch on it more or not in like backstory and stuff, or if it's just I guess that's what I got from it. It was just kind of implied that yeah, they
Yeah,
propped him up on it and he didn't decline, so that's how he got to where he was.
for sure. So, just continuing the story a little bit. So,
Mm.
understanding his son's feelings, Nolan nonetheless asks for his help in protecting Thraxa, and he's trying to essentially he has to like convince Mark to come back,
Yeah, he's ready to fly off into the space and try to
and
find his way home.
he knows his son won't deny help. He goes
Mm.
there to help the people, and he's like, "No, these people need help. Like the Vulturemates are on their way." And he's all like, "What if like I'm not ready? I can't even take on you. How can I take on three of them?" He's like, "We'll train." And da 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 da. They're immediately there.
Yep, before, no time.
No time whatsoever. What's your thoughts like right at that moment?
Oh shit. I mean, just like you said, he couldn't even take out his dad. He got the
Mm-hmm.
crap beat out of him by his dad, and then presumably these other Viltrumites are all just as strong as Nolan, or pretty much.
Yep.
There's multiple of them, so yeah.
It's kind of like, oh shit. Yep. That's
Yeah.
and this is
Question
how
is Omni-Man going to be able to kill them all or not?
and that's what happened in the comics too. It was
Mm.
rather immediate. He didn't have time. It was they were just there.
Mm.
As he takes Andressa and her son to safety into a cave in the mountain, which very much in the comics is exactly what happened. Mark learns that Nolan he wasn't essentially replacing them. He was trying to like redeem them by doing it right this time, as you were saying it.
Mm.
And he misses and like he talks about how much he misses Mark and regrets what he did to
Mm.
her, and she shared that with him.
Right as they got attacked.
And then they get attacked. But my question before we get into the big fight,
Yes.
Nolan, a good guy who did an awful thing? Like an awful, irredeemable thing.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, it's you can give it the classic following orders excuse kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
like because he's on a mission from his planet to do what he did.
I mean, he's essentially the most extreme version of a space Nazi that there is. It feels like.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people. There is some culpability, no matter what. Like in that situation, I don't think just following orders is ever a completely justifiable thing.
Yeah, I mean
That's tough
it gets interesting with them too,
because like the question, like I was thinking earlier, is if somebody like is that powerful and does like that much evil, like should we even allow them the chance? Like they still have that power. Like,
yeah,
does it make it good? Like, does it balance it out if they use that power to prevent that stuff from happening in the future? Like, it never can erase what they already did. You can never take that back. But it's like, do you really, if you have the choice between having him like dead and gone or out there helping people using that power, like, what do you do with that kind of power? I guess is the question.
Yeah, and that is, God, man, Invincible. I feel like flirts with that question a lot in this comic book series, and probably in the show series, like the show as well. They flirt not, and I don't mean with Omni-Man. I'm not. What I like the character I have in my head is not Omni-Man when I'm thinking this, but they flirt with this idea. The idea of like something that's awful that does good. Like, is that right? And they flirt with that idea often, and not just with Nolan. So I just like throw it in there because it's I don't know. And Invincible asks these questions a lot of times. Like he did an awful thing, and even worse in the show. Like he made his son essentially. He used his son to kill millions of people in like a subway.
Yep.
Or not, maybe hundreds in that specific
that moment. Yeah.
But like millions in Chicago dead.
Yep.
Like, can you come back from that?
Yep.
And like I know the answer from the comic book, but it's
from the comic book. Okay,
from the comic book. I know the answer from the comic book, but like even now the show, I feel like it's putting more emphasis on that question, and it's going to be interesting to see like how they navigate it.
Absolutely.
So let's get into the fight a little bit, and we'll talk. We'll there's a moment in the fight that I really want to like hammer in because it's interesting. So the Graysons start not defeating the Strollers. They start fighting the Viltrumite soldiers. First with the big burly dude that jumps into that cave. I'm assuming, I think in the comic they showed him following, in the show they didn't, but he follows them, goes into the cave. Mark's getting his ass kicked.
Absolutely.
Easily. Nolan comes in and fights, ends up killing the first Viltrumite.
Yeah, slices his guts out with his hand. That was epic.
And then takes
a piece of rock, rock, and impales him into a wall.
And you think you'd be dead.
Yeah, you'd think.
You would think you'd be dead from that moment. And then they move on and they go back to the city, and they see you like probably
Everyone's
millions.
dead.
Millions of bugs are dead. Like no one's alive in sight, and Nolan's like upset. And he turns around and he starts choking out Mark. Mark's ready to fight. And he's just like, why do I care?
Yeah, why do I feel like this?
Why do I like? And he turns to Mark like, what do you like? He's like upset with Mark right away because he's
blaming him almost in a sense.
Yeah,
because his feelings come from him.
He just killed one of his brothers for bugs, and he's like mad at Mark because like he's like, why? And Mark turns around. I think Mark gives him the most human answer. This should have been Earth. This should have been Earth.
You should have felt that way.
Yeah.
Earlier, before this happened.
And I think this is like the moment that everything's kind of turned around.
Yeah.
This is the moment.
Definitely hits him.
And then so they start fighting the other two. Omni-Man and I forget the name of the Viltrumite soldier that he's fighting. They're kind of just going back and forth, and Mark's getting his ass kicked by the
chick with a knife on her ponytail.
Which is like a good and bad idea.
Yeah. They say ponytails, long hair in a fight is usually considered a weakness,
Hmm.
just something else people can grab a hold of and manipulate you by,
Oh yeah,
which
and but
does happen a few times.
she does use it as like a positive too. But I'm like
Yeah.
that knife could easily be turned against you.
Yep.
But so another pivotal thing too, which I think is a pivotal moment for Mark, and I say this knowing, like, again, knowing the comic book. I think this is a pivotal moment because Nolan's like, stop, like, what are you doing?
Mm.
This isn't Earth. Do not fight like this is Earth. And like, I think Nolan gets to him like, if you don't try to kill her, you will die.
Hmm.
And I took it as not like, Mark, be a vicious animal, which I think a lot of people do. The way
Hmm.
I see Nolan talking to him is like, she can handle it. She has a probably a is a better fighter and like has better endurance than you are.
Mm.
Everything you throw at her, she can handle. But
And
however,
if
like,
you pull any of your punches or anything, then there's no way anything's gonna.
she will kill you. If you open up, she will kill you. And you see Mark kind of like getting his ass kicked initially, then you see him kind of like letting loose. And you
Hmm.
see him finally fight back. And then he has the moment where he has the upper hand. He wants to kill her. Or he doesn't even want to kill her, but he has the opportunity. This is where he should kill
Yeah,
her.
absolutely.
And then she stabs him before Nolan comes saves him and brutally murdering her.
Yeah, elbow through the jaw, right in the
and then
mouth.
and then out of nowhere we hear this guy come in, crack of the back. My first thought was fatality.
Yeah, just completely eviscerates Nolan. I would like to point out Nolan also explodes that dude's head, the other
Oh
Viltrumite.
yeah.
Like crushes it so it's all messed up and then he puts him on the ground and then stomps him with his boot.
I like how he takes a moment too. He's like, "Do you regret messing with my family?"
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
he's still like that uh, vengeful like spirit. Like you can still see like the Viltrumite ways, but then his son cries out and then he like lets it go. And
Yep.
it's kind of like this fun, slow, like he's getting rid of his Viltrumite ways in this fight.
I mean, he's literally turning on his people. So
Yeah. Um. So they defeat them, but they ended up losing anyway because of the one guy carrying his guts around.
he's somehow still alive.
Snaps his back in that moment in a very like, it reminded me of Mortal Kombat 9 with the X-ray.
Yep.
Like, and I'm
The
making
sound
more.
effects were intense.
I'm pretty sure they stole the sound effects from Mortal Kombat.
It's
Am
a
I not
backbreaking.
wrong?
It
Like,
was it sounded very visceral.
for the audience members who are not aware, Omni-Man is in the new Mortal Kombat game. Um, like, so this is like where I'm getting the reference from. It just seems like this is Omni-Man in Mortal Kombat here.
It's fitting.
It is. So they get captured. Nolan's captured. He's saying to Mark, "It's in the books. It's in the books." They take him away on this machine, which I will. I just want to remind you that machine. It looks very, very similar to Alan. I don't know if
Mm,
you caught that.
I did not catch that.
The machine that Grayson is in is very similar to Alan.
Okay. Oh, the thing that Alan's in.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I
Interesting.
just like, I remember seeing that and I'm like, oh, like I know what's to come, but like it's an Easter egg almost.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
so. And he's crying. It's in the books. It's in the books, which then goes into Debbie's storyline, which we'll talk about more. And then General Krieg. I think this is the first time we got like an actual like straight up name. He wasn't part of the fight, but he comes in to Mark and he tells Mark that you are essentially your dad. You're taking him his post, and
Yep.
we're gonna come check on Earth soon. And we will either take, how do you phrase it?
He said
Kill a
either you
few
kill a few and take over, or we'll kill millions.
and then take over.
Yep.
And kind of just like reiterating, like, we are coming, and you cannot
Mm,
stop us.
absolutely. A definite threat. And then I feel like that's where it ends for that story, right?
Yep. What are your thoughts on all this? The big fight.
It's epic. definitely setting up the Viltrumites.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is interesting that they didn't kill Omni-Man. I definitely noticed that.
He's on his way
Convenient,
to.
one might say,
He's on
that
his
they
way
didn't
for
just kill him.
execution.
Yeah, but they didn't just kill him there, giving him ample time to survive. So I doubt he's going to be executed by the Viltrumites. That would be quite a shocking twist.
I
But no,
will say
it
nothing.
was awesome. I'm curious how he's going to get home now.
Yeah.
If everyone's
Well,
dead on the planet,
his
and
his dad did say that they have a ship. We also have to know that there was 47 billion
that's
Thraxons.
true. That's true. So there's probably still a lot more that are alive. If
Yeah,
they didn't kill them all.
it was three Viltrumites, 47 billion Thraxons. Not
I still don't
every
like their odds.
No, there's probably maybe a billion or so dead. There's a decent amount dead
I mean,
here.
that's a lot.
It is that is a lot. It's only a billion.
Yeah,
Only.
only a billion.
Really, it's probably like millions, if not thousands.
Yeah,
But like
realistically,
everyone
that's
in that, we don't know how big the planet was, but everyone in that area was, at least visually, was dead.
yeah,
Like it's probably, I think Chicago from season one. Like everyone in the media area, yeah, a good likelihood that majority of them are dead.
yeah,
But doesn't like not the whole city's dead. It's not like a nuclear
right.
bomb or multiple. It was.
That's true.
So I would assume that he's getting back with a ship.
Yeah, that would make sense.
No, I'm not going to say more.
Yeah, you shut up now.
I will shut up. This is a huge problem. I'm like a walking spoiler. It's like Game of Thrones when you like read the books and people are talking about it's like right before the Red Wedding. It's like I guess just wait.
Good luck.
Like,
Yeah.
shut the fuck up, man. That was very much a walking spoiler. I didn't even read the books. I just read the wikis. I'm like, oh, Purple Wedding. It's gonna be great. And they're like, why are you calling it Purple Wedding? I'm like, oh. All right.
What else do we got here? I feel like there's a few side stories that we
Oh yeah. So meanwhile, while all this is happening, Debbie kind of just accepts the relationship with Nolan. She's processing. She's what stage of grief? Acceptance? I think she's getting to the acceptance part of her grief.
That's the final stage, isn't it?
Yeah, we're getting to the final stages. She's moving on from Nolan. She visits his grave, saying like, "Why me? Why did you choose me to be the pet? Why did you choose me? Like you were just a lie this entire time." And she is talking, or she's looking through pictures. I think she's getting rid of pictures. And there's a knock on the door.
Haha, I knew it.
I mean, I called it, right?
Yeah, but you weren't sure if they were going to do it at all. But I was still do it now. I was like, they could still have him and her have their thing.
Art appears. Is that Mark Hamill's voice? It didn't sound like it. It sounded like he got recasted.
I'm not sure. That's a good question. Either that, it was very tame.
Yeah, it was very tame. I mean, it's a tame character. I'm not going to dig into it, but I was kind of like, this doesn't sound like Mark Hamill. Is he? Did he quit? I guess he's not that big of a role.
Yeah.
Art appears, and he kind of says this, or she, I guess, like he doesn't really. He's kind of just a soundboard, where Debbie kind of like talks about how like they're working on Mark, riding bike for the first time, and like he disappeared because he had to go save the day, and I'm the one who taught him. I had to teach my son, how to ride bike. And like I've always been that person. I've always been, like been there from start to finish. Whereas Nolan's been Omni-man half the time, if not this whole time, and Omni-man is a monster.
Yep.
So it's just kind of like she accepts, and a bunch of things happen. Like she refuses Cecil's help. They didn't really dive too deep in the show, but Nolan Grayson, he's an artist. He's a writer. And the book money, which is, I'm pretty sure it's just the government giving them money to kind of like support Mark and support Debbie through this time, and she's just like, no, I'm done. I'm moving on.
Yeah, I would like to say they definitely put the part of her throwing away all of the books that he wrote side by
Yeah,
side with Nolan telling Mark to read his books. So that's definitely gonna come up later that
yeah,
they're all gone.
yep. They're all gone, and we kind of get a couple of the books that he wrote were Easter eggs
Hmm.
to I think they're Easter eggs to other comics. One of them, the Invincible gun. I think that's another hero. It's like the image verse before what they're doing now when they try to like restart their own Invincible image superhero verse. There's a few characters that come later in the story that's from different comics that kind of become full-fledged characters into Invincible, and I think some of the books remind me of those characters.
Hmm.
So I think the Invincible gun reminds me of like this guy gets a really cool spacesuit and it's like the best weapon in the universe. I forget what his name is. And I think Savage Beast reminds me of Battle Beast, but I'm not sure if it was that reference to
Okay.
Battle Beast or it was Savage Dragon, which is actually a comic that is still, I think, still reoccurring. So
Okay.
I'm not quite sure, but the books.
It seems likely.
I'm like, it's
Easter
there's
eggs.
an Easter egg here. I may not fully understand it, but I know there's an Easter egg here.
Hmm.
Is this like the worst time for Debbie to be
Yeah.
like, no
Throwing
one,
everything away.
yeah, she's moving on, and like the idea of like, Nolan's coming, like not he's coming back, but the idea of him is at least coming back,
Hmm.
right? Like Merc's gonna come back to Earth with this news, and Debbie,
Yep.
who finally was able to process and accept that grief, now has to like open that whole. It has to open it again.
Right. Yeah, it's gonna be tough. Tough for
So
her.
that'll be, I'm guessing, season 2, part 2.
Yeah. I assume he's gonna come back pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. Let's move on a little bit. Donald Ferguson gets a little side story here,
Yeah, he
which,
learns about himself.
yeah. So elsewhere, Ferguson discovers evidence of his death. Conflicted and confused, he tries to stab himself, only to find he has become invulnerable. What do you think Donald's story is?
Guessing it must be some sort of a cyborg or something. He got
Yeah.
metal in his arms.
Yep.
That's my
It's
guess.
a pretty good guess without saying more.
Yeah.
It's a little disadvantage. It's like, what's going to happen? It's like, shit.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah.
I kind of already know.
Yeah.
And then he'll say something that's like almost spot on. It's like, oh.
Yep.
What is, regardless of like what Donald is, and I don't think it is that big of it's not a big reveal, but I think it's more like the big reveal for Donald is where does this lead? And I'm saying this, I don't think the comics, I think I have a very good idea of where they're going with it, but it's not like, it's more of a newer thought, a newer story, or it's one that's not like highlighted too much in the comic. I could be wrong. It's been a few years since I've read it. I think I read it before season 1.
Okay.
So it's been a
It's been
while.
little bit. Yeah.
So where do you think the story's going to lead?
I'm curious to see if, like the Viltrumites are definitely posed as like an immediate threat now.
Yep.
So I'm curious to see if they like take the break, like you said, and go into the Levi stuff and kind of take a break and have that, or if they're gonna all collide at the same time, if things are gonna happen all at once, or what exactly is gonna go down.
Yeah. Very much so. I just want to point out too, when he was in the bathroom and he stabbed himself, Cecil's the one who's like, "Hey, Donald, where are you at? Where are you coming? Like, I need you."
Yeah, like immediately.
And I just want to like hint, I guess. like I feel like this leads to Cecil.
Yeah.
And I think I know kind of like the storyline without getting the detail of it. And I don't know if it's gonna. I think season 2 will touch on it. I don't know if like the big storyline is not till season 3.
Hmm.
But there is a plot point that it leads to. I'm kind of surprised that they did it here in this moment though.
Yeah.
It seemed a little out there. Who knows? Maybe they were like they had this and they're like, you know what? We need to pad this episode a little bit further. Let's start in with Donald's story.
Yeah. Pose some more questions that we'll answer eventually.
I will say though, he's the other one. He's the third one who got the music, little music video, right? Debbie got it too.
Was it him or was it?
It's either him or Eve.
Yeah, I feel like it might have
Or
been Eve.
I feel like it was Donald. I just
Maybe,
want
I
to point
can't
out
remember.
Debbie. She had it, and she was on the highway overpass, staring into traffic. She's the other character who was like thinking suicide.
I could see that.
And
Contemplating it.
yeah, and I don't know if like not necessarily planning it, but just like her husband, she just was staring at death.
Yep.
And just was staring at it, and then did something else.
Yeah, it did. When we are introduced to her, she is walking barefoot through the streets.
She is kind of like a walk of shame almost.
Yeah.
So, or at least maybe that's what they're alluding to.
Hmm.
Moving on to Adam Eve's story. She goes to college, realizes Mark's not like getting like he's away from Earth, not really there to talk. Eve's feeling something, and that's kind of just like I think the overall storyline with her. She's feeling something, and I don't quite know what it is because she goes. Yeah. Right. The last time we seen her, she just got done with her parents yelling at her, saying that she's not a good superhero. She's dangerous. Yada, yada. They don't like, they're essentially like kicking her out. Not kicking her out, but just they're not accepting her for her. She's living in a forest by herself. Her only like real superhero friend is Mark, isn't there. She's hanging out with Amber and Will. And she ends up going, she doesn't fly back. And they kind of like, for the first time, it's like, hey, your house is really far away. Like, where are you staying? I thought that was an interesting line because I always got the sense like the forest was just out of the city.
Yeah. But it must be further away because you said she's in Africa in the comics or something, right? Yeah.
She's in Africa. So she's staying at Teen Team in their base. And she's just sleeping on the couch, which I'm kind of surprised because I'm like, I feel like they should have beds. But
right,
maybe I'm wrong.
Have spare rooms. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I forget the guy's name, but he has the cannon arm. He that was like for the first villain Mark and her fought in different storylines. She fought him as a teen. He fought him when he first got his powers.
Yep.
He comes back. He knows exactly where the teen like. He knew where the base was. He knew what he was looking for. I thought that was an interesting story they didn't dive deep into. But she starts fighting him. It was just like, you picked the wrong night. It's been a week. But we don't really see her week. And I thought it was just I thought her story was just interesting. And I'm like, what are
we building to here? Kind of. Yeah. What is going on? Yeah.
What is she feeling?
Definitely dealing with something.
At the end of the episode, she goes home and like her dad just like lets her in. And that's it.
Yeah. Well, I almost wonder because she has the fight with the guy and it's like getting drug out a lot, which I would like to point out the fact that if she is like with the powers that she has and stuff like that, it probably really shouldn't be that difficult for her to subdue somebody like that.
No, she could.
It was almost more like she was taking the time to like fight him and like take out her aggression.
She could change his gun.
Yeah. And that leads to the old couple in the car getting blasted by one of her things that she deflects his gunshot and they crash into the river below.
Yep.
And I don't know, they don't show it, but I kind of have a feeling that maybe they didn't live.
Or they're severely, at least hurt.
Yeah, in a bad place. I mean, they never say that they have a pulse or anything like that when they're on the bridge after she saves them from the water.
I got that feeling
And
too.
yeah, and then she goes back home like, maybe I'm not as good at this as I thought I was, kind of thing. Like she's starting to question herself more.
Yeah. So what do you think she's feeling?
Uselessness.
You
I don't know, feeling like she is not actually able to help anybody, even though she has all of
the
these powers and the ability, in theory, to help everybody or lots of
she
people.
she arguably has the best power set ever.
Yeah.
She has the arguably the most helpful power set, which
Yep.
is more kind of her story of sorts. Um, we're already kind of into that. Like she helps in other ways. She doesn't need to fight bad people.
Yep.
She doesn't need to fight villains. She literally could go like in the comics. She went to an African village and just built a village. She built
Mm.
water, a source of water. She built food for them. And it's like you could just go to like you could just do that. You could rebuild
Mm.
Chicago if she had her own Cecil or
Mm.
just Cecil. And I'm not alluding to anything else. And I'm
Or
not
maybe,
saying
yeah, maybe the other issue what she needs is like, because like with the Chicago thing, especially trying to help and fix things, and then it falling apart anyways, and people getting hurt because of it.
mhm,
Maybe it's a lesson of that the power alone isn't enough to fix things, and she still needs to, like educate herself and do things the right way. Like it's
yeah.
not just a shortcut to like solve everything. Like she could, but she still needs to do it the right way. Like if she knew how to build stuff correctly, then she could probably use her powers in a better way to do it in
Mhm.
a safer manner, and
I
that
will
kind of
say
stuff.
her looking for Mark alludes to a lot of things in the future.
Okay.
And I don't want to like I hate like the knowing what happens, but I'm like that was like the key point when she was like, I'm looking for Mark, and I'm just like, oh, I think I know where they're going with this.
Okay.
So, but I will say like superheroes like Mark is like the one person that like gets her in the
Mm.
sense of like he's the one friend who also has powers, but is also like close enough as like a human being.
Appear. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's looking for him, and he's gone. And Amber makes this like hey, that's what it is about being a superhero girlfriend. You have to deal with these things. And I don't
Yeah.
know what the show is going to do. I have a feeling the show is going to go their own way when it comes to like relationships. But I think it's interesting that they're hinting at those
Mm.
in this one. All right, last story because we only get like 4 other storylines other than Mark and Nolan, and then this one's pretty quick, and this is just the Mauler twins,
Oh
which
yeah, at the very end.
I swear the Mauler twins is like they're finishing up soon, I think, but I could be wrong. I don't
They're
know.
forever. They're eternal.
I mean, in a way, I know they like. I'm just gonna stop talking,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
their storyline kind of like closed in a way, or it can be closed in a way. Whereas
I
he
I
makes another
enjoyed that.
he makes another clone, and one clone is clearly the original, and one's
Yeah, because of
clearly
the
the
half
clone.
of his body is scarred like Two-Face.
And that was really cool just in season 1 where it's just like, yeah, we have to make it this way. Otherwise, like, we will know who the original or like who the original is. And like the other one will go mad. So we do it this way. So the other one doesn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it's interesting that the Mauler twin with the face or like his skin basically gone is just like, ha ha ha, I am King Mauler.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I
they're
should have
like,
thought of this a
yes.
long time ago.
And then like obviously it's just like the other one kills him with poison.
Yep.
He's like some things are for a reason, for a good fucking like some things the
Yeah.
way they are for a good fucking reason. And it's like and then he proceeds to make another clone, I'm assuming.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I think he was already. I think the one that was melted was in the process of making another clone, because he said he's like,
A bunch
I don't
of
know
them.
why I only. Yeah. He's like, I don't know why I only ever had one before. If I can make a bunch of you idiots, but it's because you couldn't have a bunch of them fighting over it. There's a reason why probably there's only 2 of them, and they do it the way they do. Otherwise, they couldn't maintain their.
So they have peers. Like they have
Yeah.
an equal peer rather than like one inferior, one not inferior, because their ego
Yeah.
gets too large.
Yep.
All right.
Had to keep each other in check.
Let's wrap it up. What rating would you give this episode?
Solid 4+.
4+. I think I give
Yep.
it a 4. I
I
think
was a fan.
I think if they would have like left it just Mark and Nolan and Thraxa, I think it could have been a 5-, 4+. I think
Yeah, I think there would have been some disappointment though if we would have got this final episode and not had anything of any
I
of the
agree.
other
I agree.
characters.
I agree.
So I think they kind of had to do that.
I agree. I think this is like what they had to do. This is where I'm like, I sometimes I wish Invincible would have been written like it's One Piece. And I
For a
know
million years.
maybe not a million years, but just like it goes almost way into the lore, way into the backstory, and like deeply enriches it to a point that it's like almost frustrating. No, it is just frustrating to watch.
Yeah.
But I will say I do like the brisk, like you don't have to watch much. It's an easy grasp. Even now, a season and a half in, like, hey, watch 12 episodes. Like that's not a hard ask. Especially
Right.
Invincible is pretty easy to watch in the first place.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's enjoyable to watch.
But I will say, like, if they were to do it to like One Piece and they would have left this episode alone and had it be its one storyline, I think it would have been slightly better.
Yeah.
But
limitations of the medium.
But they did tie it in really, really, really well with like Debbie's
Yeah.
storyline, Nolan's storyline, and Donald too. Thematically fits
Yeah.
what was happening. It's just weird placement. Where do you think?
Get it now?
Yeah, you talked about this a little bit. Where do you think season 2 goes?
I don't know if we're just gonna get a break. If Mark's gonna go back and just like kind of forget about his dad. I don't know if his dad's gonna have to try to break out on his own, or if Mark is gonna end up helping to break him out. Maybe Nolan and Alan end up in the same place and they work together to break out.
Okay.
I don't know. I feel like there's different ways. I think the real question is Engstrom and how he's going to come into play. I think that's the real wild card of the next part.
Yeah, I really thought Angstrom was going to be the part one or part 1 villain. No, he's probably part 2. There's like 3 big plot points. 4 if you include another villain of sorts that it's on their way, and we'll talk about like what's to come, like who's still eventually to come. Angstrom Levy, not Levy, still hurts. Still hurts to say it that way. He's definitely the biggest plot point. He's the biggest villain, but I'm just like fascinated like where the Viltrumites come into play. Are they going to be the season finale? Is it Angstrom and what his storyline comes?
I mean, we only got 4 more episodes.
We got 4 more episodes.
That's not that much.
Let's just go down the list of like what's to come, right? We still have Nolan's storyline.
Yep.
What's happening with him? What's happening like on the planet? We still
alive.
Alan's storyline, possibly.
I feel like that.
There's more
I
there.
can't imagine that's just the end. Yeah, that would be a pretty lackluster ending to his story.
There is Mark on the planet of Thraxa with his brother.
Yep.
And he was asked to save his brother. But let's say his brother's on a planet. That's where he's at currently. You assume he's going to go back to Earth, probably in a ship.
Yep.
Cecil and his consequences.
Yes.
We have Eve and her feelings. And in a very small way, Amber and her feelings. Angstrom Levy and Evil Mark.
Yep.
The Mars hive mind villain that's on his way.
Yep.
And then Viltrumites coming to check.
Yep.
So we have a lot to come.
Yep, absolutely.
And I think most of this is touched upon or wrapped up. I think the Mars villain is going to be 1 episode. I think the Cecil consequences is going to be more of a theme than it is an episode. Or it's going to build for season 3.
Okay.
Angstrom's definitely going to be either episode 7 or episode 8 villain. And I think the Viltrumites, I think they make an appearance. I think that's basically what's going to happen.
It seems like a fair assessment
Yeah.
of what's to come.
What's your guess?
I mean, about that same. I mean, I don't know. Like, it's a lot. It's a real question, I guess, of how fast they want to power through things, or how quickly things are resolved. Because I could easily see like just 4 episodes on any one of those things that we talked about for the most part. So it is a little tough to guess the pacing.
Can I say this whole episode reminded me of Dragon Ball Z without the yelling? Like, this is what a Dragon Ball Z fight would like. A whole season of fighting happened in this episode. Like, you remember the little like the punches sequence where it's like smash, smash, like they were just punching each other back and forth. And what ended up was like 20 minutes worth of fighting was like cut up in like a 30-second montage.
Yep,
that's a whole season of Dragon Ball Z.
Dragon Ball Z, yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
So I will say I appreciate that Invincible is just like, you know, we're gonna cut to we're doing the opposite of anime. We're like cutting all the way up to a chase.
Hey, not all anime is like that.
Okay. For One Piece, it's like it's like 5 episodes.
Yeah. You're talking about like the most bloated anime ever made. So,
I feel like Dragon Ball Z might be more bloated than One Piece. One Piece just has a lot of story, and is like overly thorough in its themes and lore. Whereas Dragon Ball Z is just like for like,
yeah. But even still, Dragon Ball Z only has like 100 and some episodes.
I thought it was more than that.
I'm looking real quick. All right, continue.
That was like 300. Oh, that's pretty much where I'm at. I don't have much more else.
Okay, 291. Yeah, you're right.
See, it's close to 300.
Still, it's only a quarter of what One Piece has.
That's fair. Actually, when I think about it, I'm like almost done with Dragon Ball Z if it was One Piece.
Yep.
So at 208.
Yeah.
But here we are, Invincible with. Actually, I calculated if One Piece was Invincible. I did the math, and I gotta like remember the math that I did. Actually, no, I did like if One Piece was Supernatural, like if it was a CW show, it would have 22 seasons.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So I'm like,
more than Supernatural.
Because I'm like, you watch Supernatural, but it was only 15 seasons, whereas One Piece would be 22 seasons of Supernatural.
Yeah, but Supernatural is Supernatural.
Yeah, it's so long.
I also had the benefit of watching Supernatural as it was coming out for like 10 years. So every year I only had to watch a season's worth. And then I waited for the next year for the next season to come out.
That's fair. I will say, like, everyone's like, why don't you watch Supernatural? It's like, man, because I got to like season 5. It was a long journey, and I have 11 seasons left.
Yep.
And a lot of it's just it's Monster of the Week almost with Supernatural. It's like slow gains
for the beginning part for sure. But
yeah,
let's
wrap it up.
Yeah.
All right. I don't have anything else to say. Do you have anything else to say about Invincible?
I'm looking forward to the second half.
What are you looking forward to the most? This will be our last question.
I am definitely interested in Nolan's story.
Yeah.
See where he goes.
As a comic book person, I'm excited. I was really excited about this episode. This is the episode that I was just like, I was hoping they would get to in season 2. I thought it was going to be the last, like the final episode. And surprised it's a mid-season finale. I'm excited for the consequences of this episode. Because Nolan's character changed in this episode, and he will forever be changed, and I'm excited to see that change appear on television because his overall story, he's one of my favorite characters in the comic just for his story alone.
Oh, he's definitely interesting.
He is
complex.
I'm excited for the other consequences of his actions on Thraxa to come. Mark, what it means for Mark, what it means for Earth. And I'm also excited for Adam Eve's story because it seems like her story is going to be propelled after this episode.
It definitely feels like they're setting up something for her.
I do like. She's also one of my favorite characters as well. I should make a list of like top 10 characters from the comics. I'm gonna work on that, and we'll do next episode in a few months.
That sounds good.
So
once it comes back.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you, Brandon, for coming on. This is Jake and Brandon on Fresh Takes. Get your fresh takes here. Hopefully it won't be long for us to come back to talk more Invincible. Who knows? I'm guessing March, probably April. All right. Until then, Brandon, we still got a state of review for Batman, and we're gonna do Avatar too. So you won't be gone for too long.
No, we will not.
And D&D.
Yes.
So, all right. Thank you, Brandon.
Yes, thank you.
All right. And thank you, guys. We are out.